Welcome to the latest Motley Fool scoreboard. I'm on in Chocolate Balloon. We've got longtime fools, Carl Teal and Keith Spites, giving a 1 to 10 rating to a top 200 stock in the primary Hidden Gems database. It's Exelixis, ticker symbol EXEL. We'll talk about the strength of Exelixis' business first, including factors like industry and competition. A 10 is invincible, a 1 is hopeless. Carl's at a 6.5. Keith could get half a step higher at a 7.
Right. The good news is that Exelixis' cancer drug Cabometics is an absolute juggernaut. Its patent exclusivity has been pushed out to 2031 thanks to some legal victories and legal settlements. I like that Exelixis is poised to shift from being a one-hit wonder, assuming the FDA approves Zanzalitnib later this year in treating colorectal cancer. However, it's the dependence on Cabometics for now that keeps me from giving this company a higher rating than 7.
Yeah, and I have the same, basic logic here. And I'll mention I've been a Exelixis shareholder for a couple of decades now, but the patent extensions for Cabo were such a victory for them, such a major existential Hail Mary pass that they landed, and it's great. But that saying, even though they kicked the can way down the road, it is still down the road, and so they've got a lot riding on Zanzalitnib coming out fairly soon. Their big claim for this drug is, in addition to the fact that it's going to initially go out for colorectal cancer, which is different than how Cabo is used, their current main drug. Their main claim is that it has a shorter half-life, and that selling point could be really important to physicians in practice when they say they can manage toxicity better or if they can manage combination dosing better. But it's also it's a little unclear to me whether that really turns out to be the selling point that management says it is in practice. So that's kind of the big question. But they've, built out their pipeline. They look just, much more comforting to me now than they did, a couple of years ago.
For management, a 10 is Warren Buffett, a 1 is Homer Simpson. Carl's at an 8. Keith keeps that half step higher at an 8.5.
Right. I just looked at the numbers. CEO Michael Morse has run the company since July 2010, a good long-term CEO. If you had invested $10,000 when he became CEO and held on to those shares, you'd have a whopping $134,000 today. But Morse is 64 now. He has no obvious heir apparent, so that dings the score just a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, he's been great for the company. He's great for shareholders, so definitely deserves a good rating. If he can successfully do what he's trying to do right now, which is basically bridge the lapse of the Cabo patent and just move smoothly patients into Zanzalitnib before much pain is felt, he's going to be, sort of one of the greats of the industry, and that's what he's trying to do right now. So we'll have to see how that works out.
For financials, a 10 is a fortress, a 1 is yikes. Carl's at a 7. Keith, you're at an 8.
There really isn't much not to like about Exelixis' financials, and I will leave it to Carl to point out some of the great things about the company's balance sheet. However, I will mention one financial metric that really jumps out to me. Exelixis has a return on equity of around 31% over the last 12 months, and that's just outstanding.
Yeah, they're a strong cash flow generator. They have decent cash pile, no debt beyond lease obligations. They are currently spending about 35% of revenue on R&D, and they actually could afford to go a little higher than that. They could also do some targeted M&A if the right opportunity comes along, and they've already expressed a preference for doing that, just kind of like narrow in-licensing. That's what they did with an in-silico medicine drug. We don't yet know how that will work out, but I think it's a good approach, and they're in a strong position to do it.
Carl, let's move on to valuation. How well will Exelixis' stock do over the next 5 years? How safe is it? Keeping in mind a 10 is a sure thing, a 1 is a lottery ticket.
Yeah, so in a best case scenario, management sees Zanzalitnib as a $5 billion drug, which means basically they managed to sort of replace Cabo in renal cell carcinoma. They move into their new indication in NET. They expand into colorectal cancer. And in that scenario, the stock's absolutely a 15% plus performer. I wouldn't necessarily bet on them getting everything that they want, but I still think there's a number of scenarios in which the stock does pretty well. Still a lot is riding on that half-life combo approach. So I gave them kind of a low safety score of 4.5.
Yeah, I'm also going with 15% plus. This high forecast, though, as Carl mentioned, hinges on Zanza being an explosive catalyst for Exelixis. I'm a little more optimistic about that. My safety score is a 6. I do expect that Zanzalitnib will be approved. I think it's going to be a huge commercial success, but there's always a chance that the FDA finds a problem with Exelixis' regulatory filing, or that the commercial trajectory isn't quite as good as I expect.
Thanks to both Keith and to Carl. They've given Exelixis a strong overall score of 7.6 out of 10, with Keith preferring Mirum Pharmaceuticals as a top it. Carl loves the opportunity Exelixis has with colorectal cancer. If you're looking for a less risky, longer-term value in CRC, he likes Johnson & Johnson. Look out for a new scoreboard every market day at 7 p.m. Eastern. Next up is On to Innovation. Till then, Fool on. Sorry, I got... real quick, are we on financials or valuation?